Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today we have an absolutely amazing guest that I've been looking forward to have on the show for a long time. Welcome, Chenoa Farnsworth.
Aloha.
Yes, sorry, should we say welcome? I should say aloha, shouldn't I? Which obviously means hello and I think goodbye as well. Is that right?
Yeah, and love. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Three meanings.
I'm learning something. Yeah. 3 meanings. It's trifacta.
Yes, it is.
So it's quite late at night over here in London, but I know it's kind of a bit of a different time zone where you are. So for people, yes, but the blue sky behind you might be a bit of a giveaway. So where are you joining us from, Chenoa? I know the answer to this, but I know that other people might not know.
Yes, I'm in Honolulu, Hawaii.
You see, I can hear the roar from the audience going, that's a very lucky woman.
Yes, I can't disagree.
So Honolulu, Hawaii. So this is the first episode of the G&T sessions that we've ever had from somewhere as far away from, you could say, G&T headquarters. So thank you for coming on the show. However, I know that last year, after meeting, obviously a few years ago, which I'll come back to in a bit, we did meet up in person.
We did.
Unfortunately, I've not got my Hawaiian shirt on today, but I did have my Hawaiian shirt when I was in your office in Honolulu in September last year. And it was very pleasant to see you in person for the first time, rather than living in this kind of virtual world that we live in.
Yes, exactly.
So maybe for the people that obviously don't know Chenoa yet, but could you just maybe give a bit of an introduction, explain, what are you doing in Honolulu, that exotic location that you live in?
Yes, other than being the luckiest person in tech and venture in the world, probably. Yes.
No, come on.
So I do live in Hawaii. I run a venture accelerator here called Blue Startups. Blue Startups has been around for 10 years in Hawaii. We invest in, mentor, and accelerate technology companies, both from Hawaii and from elsewhere. So it is a global accelerator. We've had 110 companies come through the cohorts so far. So we have a pretty sizable global portfolio at this point. And I also run the local angel network, Hawaii Angels. And I'm also involved in impact investing through a foundation called Sundial. So a bunch of different hats, which is very typical of Hawaii. But yeah, that's me.
Wow. So that's over 100 startups that you've helped to incubate or take through your accelerator in the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's right. So, and those startups have gone on to raise over $500 million in venture capital. We had our first IPO in 2021, which was very exciting. I actually got to go to New York for the bell ringing on the NYSE stock exchange floor. So that was a big highlight. So making progress, it's been an interesting journey, of course, but it's been a lot of fun.
So you must have seen 2013 actually. If it's 10 year anniversary this year?
Yeah, 2013.
Because that's incredible. So you could say you are the Aileen Lee, yeah, of Honolulu. The Aileen Lee, so Aileen Lee, from Cowboy Ventures.
Oh, Cowboy. Yeah.
So the Aileen Lee, that coined the phrase tech unicorn. You could say that you are like the Aileen Lee, or should I say she's the Chenoa Farnsworth of.
Yes, I am.
That's fantastic.
A rare species. Yes, you're doing venture and tech in Hawaii. People kind of go, "Wow, I didn't know that was a thing." First of all, and I have to say, yes, it is a thing. Although it is a small thing, of course, we're a small state. Only 1.4 million people live in Hawaii, so. We are small, and that's why we try to really go global, with our approach. And that's where this kind of thesis of East meets West comes into the work we do. So when my partners and I sat down in 2013 to start Blue Startups, we thought about what is unique to Hawaii. Obviously we're not going to be the next Silicon Valley, or even as we were talking earlier, the next Silicon Beach or the next Silicon Prairie or any of these things.
Roundabout or Silicon Roundabout, like we got this boring thing in London, yeah.
Silicon Roundabout, right? So because we're just very small, so what is our niche going to be? And we really tried to put some thought into what is unique to Hawaii in this technology industry, and being the bridge to Asia was really the kind of thesis that we arrived on. Like nobody else can claim that. Hawaii is a very international place and a melting pot of cultures from East and West. There is no majority here. Everyone's in the minority. It's a very unique place culturally. And it's a place where both basically North Americans and Asians feel comfortable. We have a lot of connection culturally. And what we were trying to build are connections in the business world, right? So that kind of translates into a competitive advantage for companies that, for example, are doing business in both markets or moving from one market to the next. So that was part of our kind of thesis when we started.
Yeah, and it's also that unique fusion of those kind of elements, isn't it? Because it makes you stand out, and nobody can replicate it. It's impossible to replicate, isn't it? So because of your geography.
Yeah, and something else we talked about a little earlier too is we do refer to Hawaii as startup paradise because another thing that cannot be replicated is our lifestyle, frankly, right? And so it's been an interesting evolution. The East meets West piece, I think, is still very much alive and well, but add to that this idea of startup paradise, and especially during COVID, we've had a lot of people in migration who are saying, well, I'm in the tech industry, but I don't actually have to go to the office anymore. And why wouldn't I choose to live in a beautiful place like Hawaii? So that's a new development, and kind of we'll see how that changes the ecosystem here. I'm hopeful it will change it for the better. In other words, you have a lot of people here that are right now working remotely. Maybe they're working for Google or Facebook or Meta or whatever. But they're drawing a nice paycheck, from that. But my theory is eventually they will get bored with, an entirely online existence, and maybe start a new company, or join another startup that's already here in Hawaii, that sort of thing. So we'll see. It's kind of an interesting inflection point and a big influx of talent, frankly, to our state that I think can be leveraged.
Well, I remember, we originally met when we were helping a unnamed startup to enter your lovely ecosystem, and that was obviously during that big P word that happened a few years ago, and it's because I think Hawaii actually got cut off, didn't it? You actually stopped all the flights. There was like a bubble over Hawaii, wasn't there, over the islands to kind of protect the islands at that time.
It was.
And obviously, thankfully, that's ceased. And you mentioned about the as Scott Galloway calls it, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, or is it the 6 horsemen of the apocalypse now? Meta and Google, etc. But my understanding, obviously, people like Mark Zuckerberg actually own most of Kauai, I think, or and then you got.
That's the other interesting thing. Almost all of the owners of these companies have sizable properties here. Yeah. Zuckerberg owns half of Kauai. Ellison owns all of Lanai. And, you've
Mark Benioff owns most of, I don't know.
Benioff owns Big Island. He's on the Big Island.
Does he own Big Island? Oh, really? Oh, wow.
No, he doesn't own it. But he has a place on the Big Island. And during COVID, he actually moved 100% to the Big Island.
Did he?
So, yeah, I think he's probably back now. But so we have all of these guys who are kind of here, but of course they're not here to participate in the tech scene here, right? That's not why they're here. They're here to lay low. So it's interesting. It's a challenge to try to get them engaged. We've tried a lot, and
have you really? To kind of sponsor or cooperate with it.
Not succeeded yet. I will say yet. I think there's still, but folks like that, it's obviously they're hard to get to, and you're not even getting to them. You're getting to their people, to have this conversation. And it's kind of like, well, that's what I do with my day job. It's not why I'm in Hawaii, I mean, they are all very philanthropic. They do a lot for Hawaii in other ways, but in terms of getting involved in our kind of little.
Well, also the cult. You know, I've worked in the Salesforce ecosystem quite a bit as well, and you know, understanding, you know, the way they've embraced that kind of. You probably seen with Salesforce that the kind of Mark's completely bought into that kind of cultural approach, and it's
yes.
I don't know if you as a native Hawaiian, I don't know what you know what.
No, he is definitely not a native Hawaiian, and that is very problematic. So, I mean, you've heard the term cultural appropriation. Salesforce has now gotten in plenty of trouble with native Hawaiians
for all right. Oh wow.
Kind of a bastardization of the culture.
Okay.
So it's an interesting balance, right? I know that, well, I don't know because I don't know Mark personally, but I imagine his intentions are good, right?
Yeah.
And you know that it's because, of course, he embraces the culture here and he loves it here, that he wanted to bring some of that into, you know, the San Francisco headquarters. But it's hard to do that right. You know, it's hard to do that.
Well, it's like this kind of thing. I think it's thing like ohana. Yeah, like is it family? Yeah, ohana. It's like yeah. So that seems to
family.
be, you know, one of the principles they've kind of tried to embrace. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying is you are a native Hawaiian. I mean, you are native Hawaiian, aren't you? So you know you've been brought up.
I am.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
I'm not native Hawaiian either, but I have lived my whole life here.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it's. You know, so even I wouldn't do that, even though I've lived here my whole life. Like, so I think actually the more you know about culture, right, the more you understand where those lines are and how to respect culture and give it its proper due, but not kind of adopt it as your own because it's not yours, really.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a tricky fine line. Yeah.
So I know that when I know you're very busy, right? As you explained in your intro, and I know that we were talking about actually recording this episode a cheeky few months ago, and but you were just about to go to a very special party, which I was very jealous about, actually.
Yeah.
And actually, when I was in your office, when I was wearing my Hawaiian shirt with you, and we had that lovely picture looking over the bay. You know, but we didn't have any Mai Tais. It was strictly a non-alcoholic meeting in your office.
I believe it was morning, yeah.
Yes, it was morning, yes. I think it was before midday. But actually, that means it could be 7 o'clock somewhere else. Like, you know, it's midday where you are. That means it's like 9 o'clock at night in London. But one of the things I thought I was really impressed with was that computer that you have in your reception area. And so I don't know if you could explain to the audience a bit about the history around that and where that started and where that came to. Because when I found out about this, and obviously knowing yourself and the team there, I was blown away. I was going, oh my word.
Yeah.
So
So the story is I'm sitting now in the worldwide Tetris headquarters, which is in Honolulu, Hawaii, and that's where you've been, Andrew. And so the history of that, which you can now watch in a major motion picture called Tetris movie, and that's an Apple movie that came out this spring and explains the history of Tetris. So for those of you who don't know, you know, Tetris is a video game that's been around for now 35 years. It's one of the oldest IP brands that still has a lot of value, and certainly in the video game industry, and the arguably most popular video game of all time. And so the story is my Henk Rogers was a video game entrepreneur in Japan, and he found this game at actually CES.
Was it CES?
It was CES in Las Vegas. That's how long they've been doing that conference. So
wow,
yeah, in the 80s. And long story short, he tracked down the IP to the Soviet Union and actually went to the Soviet Union in the 80s to try to strike a deal with the government there to license the IP to him. And I'll let you watch the movie for the rest of it.
It was owned by the Soviet Union government. It was owned by the Soviet Union government.
Fast forward 20 years or so. I missed that. What was it, Andrew?
No, you were saying it was owned by the Soviet
Yes.
Union
So
government.
again,
It wasn't
this
an
is during
individual.
still very much communism, right? So while the IP was created by an individual, Alexei, who's also in the movie, he basically doesn't own it, right? There's no personal ownership of anything at that time in the Soviet Union, so the government
Right.
owned it. So he had to, negotiate with the government to get rights to distribute it, and it's way more complicated than that. And you gotta watch the movie, but yeah. Fast forward 20 years, and Henk moved the company and to Hawaii. The reason for that is, well, he always loved Hawaii, but also it was an East meets West play because their two biggest markets for Tetris are Japan and the United States. So being here was strategic for them. They can talk to all of their licensees in one business day. It's a licensing company at this point, right? They don't develop their own games anymore, but that's why they're here in Hawaii. And the computer that you're referring to that's in our office is the original computer that Alexei would have programmed Tetris on in the Soviet Union. So, it's got a Cyrillic alphabet keyboard, and it's a very, now old.
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me of like a Commodore PET. You remember the Commodore PET? It was a bit like that, wasn't it? With the, like the green characters on the black screen kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Exactly. So 10 years ago, when we were starting Blue Startups, basically it was Henk, the owner of Tetris, and his daughter, who now runs Tetris. She's the CEO, Maya. She's in the movie as well as a 10-year-old girl.
Right.
Yeah, and then and myself. So 3 partners, and again, reason being that Henk's motivation was one of economic development for Hawaii, opportunity for kids growing up in Hawaii, wanted to see more IP-based businesses coming out of Hawaii, a la Tetris, right? Like that could operate here, that had basically, operating in these dual markets of East and West, that kind of mode. He really wanted to support the development of more companies like that here. So that was his motivation to start Blue Startups. My motivation was I was on the investment side, so I'd been running the local angel network for a long time. And frankly, after the 2008, financial meltdown, deal flow had just kind of dried up, and there was just nothing happening. So we saw an accelerator as a catalyst for bringing deal flow back to our network of investors. It was that inflection point. Was either we're going to do something like an accelerator, or we're going to just shut down the investment network. So we decided to join forces with Tetris, and so that was kind of the original.
And then you kind of joined forces and then gave birth to Blue Startups. Yeah. Okay,
that's right.
So you kind of got different backgrounds. Kind of different backgrounds.
Tetris. Yeah.
So just to finish off that little story. So basically, I think you've got Taron Egerton playing Henk in the film, haven't you? Yeah. And I presume you got some pictures of Henk and Taron together.
Yeah. I mean, Taron, frankly, does not look much like Henk at all. If you've met him.
No, I know.
It's kind of funny. So originally they had cast Rami Malek, who does look like Henk. That would have been really good casting, but I can't remember the story. But Rami had to pull out of the project, I think, because of COVID. They filmed this whole movie during COVID.
Wow.
And then Taron got cast. So but they did want somebody who looked American, right? So because Henk was playing an American, he is of Dutch Indonesian descent.
Oh, is he? I was going to ask you. Okay. Yeah. Flying the European flag, you see, European and Asian flag. Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't look a lot alike, but it doesn't matter. Taron does a great job with the role, and we get lots of questions about what's real, what's not real, and I can say it's pretty much accurate. I mean, the Hollywood parts are car chases and fistfights. None of those things happen. But other than that, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously, when I was a kid, and probably you were a kid, you know, everybody knew about Tetris. So I mean, it's kind of it's a
Totally.
fantastic story to kind of incubate and give birth to blue startups as well as and actually in the
Yeah.
location. Yeah, it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle you brought together, isn't it? So incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, on your background then, you kind of have you got a banking background or something? How did you get involved in this? Are
No.
you a financier, or did you just kind of fall into it, or were you
Yeah.
no?
Yeah. I definitely kind of fell into it. I mean, the story is my first career was in actually health policy, health administration, and public health. And
Okay,
I was living in DC working with the first Clinton administration there
all right,
and things like that on health issues. Um, and I thought, well, I'm going to go get my MBA. I thought that would be helpful to my career. So I came home to get my MBA, home being Hawaii.
right.
And during that time, it was the first dot-com boom, you know,
Mm-hmm.
1.0. And
What the 1999, 2000 kind of 2001 that
yeah,
kind of
exactly.
okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, as a part of the MBA program, I started working with some tech startups, you know, those were kind of assignments basically. And I was like, oh, you know, wow, like this is where the fun is at. I've been doing in like health policy. Those people are so boring, you know? So I just immediately was like, I totally switched gears throughout the MBA program. I just started doing more and more work with different tech startups in Honolulu. And, you know, there was a big, which, you know, evolved. I did that for many years. I worked for multiple tech startups, none of which
Okay.
became, you know, Facebook, unfortunately. So, but you know, whatever, it was all fun and good and great experience. And then I kind of shifted to the investment side
Mm,
when a gentleman named Rob Robinson came to town, and
mm,
he was an expert at angel investing. And he
mm,
said, you know, I want to start an angel network. Kind of, do you want to help me? And so I started helping him with that. And then we actually became business partners as well. And we had a
mm-hmm.
venture fund here
Okay.
for many years called Kolohala, which we invested about $50 million into tech startups here in that time frame in the 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, so you know, I went from basically, you know, a boring career in health policy to working with tech startups, which was super fun, to being on the investment side. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
interesting because I mean, when I started in the tech industry a few decades ago,
yeah,
you know, it wasn't seen as, you know, what is people say, why are you doing that? And now it's so kind of sexy and attractive and, you know,
yeah,
magnetic. It's quite
yeah,
incredible. It's quite incredible,
yeah.
you know, the way you describe it as well. I mean, obviously, yeah, it's interesting. So what would you, so functionally, are you more like a financier, you know,
I would say,
financially?
yeah,
Yeah.
functionally, I'm more of my expertise is on the investment side of things. So when I'm
Mm,
working with our companies, you know, when I'm introducing myself, I say, if you've got questions about investment, investment relations, you know, how to approach investors, all of that is kind of where I
right.
would
Yeah. Okay.
my
Yeah. Yeah.
expertise.
Mm,
So, you know, that kind of areas. And then, of course, for the program, we have over 200 mentors that have expertise in all kinds of areas, right? So,
mm,
you know, the
mm.
program is really like I call it MBA on steroids. You know, it's it's 12 weeks, every week a different theme, and you're
Mm,
kind of cramming a lot of learning into those different theme areas. So, you know, whether it's sales or finance or um, you know, marketing, whatever. So
mm.
we're kind of doing a deep dive in these different kind of functional areas of what, you know, what you will need to run a startup
Yeah.
throughout the program. But yeah, my expertise is on the investment side.
And what? Just a quick question about the angel investing. So you would do
Mhm.
your thesis on angel investing, I presume, is investing in companies that are what headquartered in Hawaii or could benefit the Hawaiian
Not
ecosystem. Is it?
necessarily. I mean, so on the angel investment side, so Hawaii Angels has been around now more than 20 years. We just
Wow.
had our 20-year anniversary. Yeah. And, you know, we really invest in a very broad range there. It's not just
Mm,
tech. It can be anything from, let's call them lifestyle businesses. We do some, revenue-based investing, for those kinds of companies. We do real estate investing. We do startup investing. So it's a pretty broad range with that group of investment types. And, personally, my personal portfolio right now, I have, kind of my let's call it 1.0 portfolio, which has done great. But in this next kind of area, I'm focusing really on female founded companies and companies that are addressing either, markets that are underserved for women, or, what I like to call mom tech. I think that's a huge area that's pretty neglected and under-resourced. So, that's kind of my current thesis is around female founders and mom tech. That's on my personal investment portfolio. But
what do you define as mom tech then? How do you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, so we've done a couple investments in that. And so example would be we invested in a service for postpartum depression for moms.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Another one is on investment kind of similar, but in wraparound services for pregnant women. So, this is something that's very common in Britain, but we don't have that here. Like, it is not paid for by insurance here. You can hire a midwife or a doula or, a breastfeeding coach or what have you, but that's all out of pocket. So
right. Okay.
The company that we invested in here is getting those pieces basically in a wraparound service covered by insurance.
It's like a value-added service around that kind of pregnancy and postnatal care.
Obviously the outcomes are better if have those wraparound services. It's just historically insurance in the United States has not covered that. So this company is kind of packaging that up, taking it to the insurance providers, making the case that in fact you will have better outcomes if you provide these wraparound services and getting those covered.
Okay.
It's a slow process. It's state by state kind of going. But again, these are big opportunities. I mean, there's a lot of.
Oh, you mean we got people like Kaiser Permanente and people like that you deal with, presumably the bigger and Blue. Yeah. Okay.
Blue Cross.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Blue Cross Blue Sheet. Yeah.
So things like that. That's kind of what I'm currently excited about. Those areas. Yeah.
And for any budding founders, tech founders that have been inspired by learning about Startup Paradise. Yeah. If you were looking at the Blue Startups cohorts that you run, I know it's evolved over the last few years. Yeah. What are the kind of characteristics of the ideal? I don't know. Ideal. What do you call it? IFP, ideal founder profile, or ideal ISP, ideal startup profile.
Yeah. So I mean, basically the kind of investment columns that we're in. So on the startup side, right, we're looking for startups in sustainability, in travel and tourism technology, and software, and to some extent gaming as well under that software category. Although we don't invest in studios, obviously that would compete with Tetris, but we invest in basically infrastructure plays in and around the gaming space, where we've done a fair amount of esports, that sort of thing.
Okay.
The travel and tourism sector obviously makes a lot of sense here in Hawaii. That already exists. It is our biggest, economic driver in the state. Our goal with that sector is to create more IP around it that's exportable. So whether that be apps or services that are scalable or, web service, what have you. So we have a small portfolio now of just kind of travel and tourism related technologies. And that's a growing focus for us. And even more specifically, we love to see things in the sustainable tourism space. Hawaii is trying to lead the way globally in that space and show other, over touristed spots around the planet, of which there are many, many, how possibly you can manage those spaces and create a workable situation for both residents and visitors. And that's kind of where Hawaii is at. Hawaii is at an interesting inflection point in the tourism industry in that we're pretty much maxed out Like, we can't take any more tourists. So we've been.
Well, I was going to say how many tourists. I know you said mentioned 1.4 million, population, but that does the number of tourists dwarf that?
Yeah. So we get 10 million tourists a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a huge, industry here in the tourism industry, but again, we can't, we are maxed out at that. So we've gone from a marketing engine, right, for decades now. We've been showing ads around the world, come to Hawaii. And now we're having to shift gears. Like, it's not that we don't want you to come, but we don't need to spend money on that. They are coming.
Right. Yeah.
Now we need to figure out how to manage it.
Right.
In a way that doesn't destroy our environment.
Yeah.
That our people, so that's an interesting inflection point, and it creates an opportunity as well. And of course, like I said, we're not the only over touristed place on the planet. This is a chronic problem in the tourism industry. Places are just getting inundated. I mean, I told you, getting on the call, I just spent 3 weeks in Italy. I mean, places like Florence are just absolutely, inundated with tourists. And I'm sure people who live there feel the same way we feel. Like, oh my God, when does it, it just, when does
it ease up? It never does.
Yeah. And it's just so impactful on your quality of life. And especially coming out of COVID, where we got this like total break from it. Our beaches were empty, our streets were empty. I mean, it was like, we had our home back, in a sense. And I think everybody understands and recognizes this is the economic engine of Hawaii, and you can't switch it off, shut it down.
Yeah.
Right. But how do we manage it better is the current challenge. And I think, we can come up with creative solutions and we can export those. Right. So that's a big focus for us as well. And then on the sustainability side, we're, again, we care about the planet. Henk Rogers is a huge climate change activist. That is primarily what he does with time now. He has several nonprofits, one that's local called Blue Planet Foundation, and one that's international called Blue Planet Alliance.
Okay.
He's working towards getting the whole globe basically to adopt the same clean tech standard that Hawaii has adopted, which is 100% renewable energy by 2045.
Oh, wow.
So that is the goal. And he's now lobbying the UN, small countries, one-on-one to sign on to these goals and try to grow that to be a global movement. So given, that's where he is spending his time, obviously that's a focus for us as well. And we just got, speaking of East Meets West, we just got a new program that we're launching.
Oh, you mentioned this. Yeah. Go on.
Program for Japanese startups. So that's going to be really interesting. So we're excited about that.
So should I call you Aloha Chenoa-san? Or should I say Aloha Farnsworth-san?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I mean,
exactly.
That's an amazing dimension. I mean, when I was at SAP, the German software company, for quite a few years, I actually looked after all the Japanese high-tech companies in UK and Europe. And, Hitachi, Fujitsu, Mitsubishi, etc., Sony, etc. And learning about that culture and dealing with change and being in very senior meetings with watching the Japanese protocols, it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And we had this particular project with a client, which I won't mention, but who the client was, but literally they had an American, a New Yorker American trying to run a project in Germany for the semiconductor business of this Japanese brand in a Japanese culture. It was kind of like the fusion of German culture with an American leader and in a Japanese business. It was a real melting pot culturally, you can imagine. Needless to say, he didn't last very long, the American guy, and they They actually appointed a British guy to run it. Actually, I don't know, maybe I don't know, more diplomacy or whatever, but it was very, very interesting. But
We've hired a Japanese woman to manage this project. I think
oh,
it's
really?
the smartest thing to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I've known her for years, and she's been living in Hawaii for many years. So she's fully bilingual and really the perfect person to run this new program. So yeah.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, yeah, what I find interesting is that when Japan companies do stuff outside their home country, they actually create this kind of multi-tiered parallel structure where they have like the Japanese person in the role, and also then they have a local national as well. So it makes the stakeholder management's like double the management, you could say, or double the engagement model. So it's for big change, then it becomes incredibly interesting. But yes, the drinking Weiss beer in Germany with a Japanese CIO. That's quite an unusual kind of combination. But anyway, enough of my stories.
Drinking is the tie that binds,
exactly,
between those cultures.
So what was the thinking behind the Japanese? Was it just that you saw an untapped, kind of extension of that East meets West kind of thing, and there was a demand for that? Is that what you were seeing?
Yeah, I mean, so the program is being put up by JETRO, which is the Japanese trade exchange organization. And so they basically just put out an RFP for it, and we applied. And because we spent many years building those relationships, that's and they were interested in Hawaii for this clean tech piece. Because there is a lot of activity here in that sector.
So is that another program that runs in parallel to your Blue Startups? Accelerator.
It'll be in parallel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's getting busy. It's getting busy over there.
It is getting busy over here for sure. Yeah. So those are the three columns on the sector side, and then on the founder side, obviously, we are Hawaii first. So looking for Hawaii founders, or when we say Hawaii connected founders. So maybe that is somebody from Hawaii, the Hawaii diaspora, which is pretty broad, and then also companies that are doing business in Hawaii.
Okay.
And then female founders, another area that we are keen to invest in. And then East-West kind of founder profile, right? Those folks coming in of Asia. So those are kind of the areas, kind of 6 areas that we're looking for, 3 sectors and 3 founder kind of types. Yeah.
Well, this is the great thing you see about you now coming on the G&T sessions. You see, there's going to be an avalanche of applications now when people listen to this episode. They'll be all queuing up to fly over there, and they'll be landing in Honolulu. I mean, when I was,
you're right.
Well, no. I mean, I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's like it's. I went to Kauai quite a few years ago, but then when I came to see you, and then I went on a little trip. And then ended up in Big Island, which I'd never been to before. I mean, that is incredible, that place. I mean, going to see the volcano and just learning the history of the island and the manta ray swimming and stuff like that is absolutely out of this world. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah. It is a place that, where the earth is still very much alive, and that's a very kind of impactful thing to experience, right? You really see things differently a little bit.
Well, I mean, as you know, the kind of history with Kauai, with the Garden Isle, and with Jurassic Park. I think it's where they filmed that Jurassic Park, isn't it? I think originally, is that right?
Yeah. They did. Yeah. But they filmed it here too.
Oh, did they? Okay. But the just going to see the volcano. I can't remember what it's called in Big Island. I know there's a couple there.
Kilauea.
That's right. Yeah. I was on a 10-hour trip, and we only did like 20% of the island, which just shows how big it is. And it's thinking, oh my god. And the story, I think, is that you can fit all the other islands into Big Island. It's so big.
Yeah, you can. It's much bigger than they were.
That's like mind meld, that isn't it? I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. Although population wise, that's not.
It's quite
It's
sparse.
very, very small population.
It's quite sparse.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
sparse.
But but when we went to see the actual volcano itself, it was like watching something out of Jurassic Park. You could see, is there a T-Rex going to appear, or a Brontosaurus or something? It was absolutely incredible.
It is, yeah.
So it's very, very inspiring. I mean, anybody that's listening to this episode, I would highly recommend. Obviously, I don't want to kind of overcause that problem about the sustainability on the travel and tourism, but I would highly recommend anybody to experience Hawaii at some point in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of your background, I mean, it sounds like you've obviously you kind of say that classic thing, pivoted from kind of what you did in DC to where you are now. One of the things that we talk about is kind of like this thing about what we call peaks and valleys. Yeah. So obviously, I think you've had you talked about quite a few peaks, and hanging out with film stars and stuff like that in Honolulu, drinking Mai Tais is pretty good. Obviously Henk's a bit of a character, I know. What would be any kind of valleys that you would share that you kind of learned from, in your journey, your personal journey, that you want to share on today's episode? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, there's been many of those. But I think when, I mentioned we had this venture fund previously in the 2000s, and in the 2000s as well, in Hawaii, there was a tax credit program operating here.
Okay.
That, was kind of making that process of investing in tech startups much less risky, basically, for folks. So we were leveraging that in the venture fund that we had put together. So when that law sunsetted, which was 2010,
right,
which coincided with the financial crisis.
Oh yeah.
08. I'll say those were dark days.
Right.
those were days
like this to like,
Yeah, we were just sitting around going, "Holy, what are we going to do now? This is pretty dire." There was no activity in the space, no deals getting done, no startups happening, no investments.
Right.
It was like, this might be game over, kids. And we were just I just remember kind of feeling very, I guess, despondent about it, because we've been already working in the industry for a decade and kind of feeling that we had nothing to show for it.
Right.
Because so much had just gone poof after that, kind of that 08 to 2010 era. And a lot of our promising startups had disappeared. And it was like, wow, we did all that for kind of what? What at the end of the day do we have to show for it? Not much. So that, I think, was probably the biggest valley, that I've been down into, and it took a couple of years to crawl out of. I think luckily, kind of Blue Startups came along, and that opportunity came along at the same time to start an accelerator. And the accelerator business model at the time was very new. There were no accelerators here at that time. So
you were the first one. You were the first one.
You were the first one.
Wow.
And so I remember right off the bat, we joined the Global Accelerator Network, which was started by Techcrunch. And I went to that first meeting. It was still very kind of Techstars heavy. The founders of Techstars were there, and I remember like sitting up to David Cohen.
Oh yeah.
And just feeling, so excited about what we were doing. Like just wow, this is so exciting. And just asking him a million questions. He probably to this day is like, oh, that girl from Hawaii, shut up. But just being so excited about that new opportunity and that new experience and being able to build something new and having also that opportunity to work with folks who were also doing the same thing. And so that was a pretty exciting time where I felt like things really kind of were
taking off again.
Around.
Yeah.
Well,
no, so I've just thought of something actually. I've just thought of something. Given it's your 10, I don't know if what you're doing. Are you doing anything to celebrate your 10-year anniversary, or have you already done that?
Yeah, I mean, we did we had like a little celebration at East Meets West, right? We just had that conference.
The one that
May.
recently,
So
yeah, okay, yeah.
Recent one. So we did a little celebration there. We produced a little, a video of kind of looking back over the 10 years and that sort of thing. Yeah. So it was fun.
Oh, so you haven't published the book yet?
I have not published a book. I don't. Everybody says, "Oh, everybody's got a book in them." I'm like, I don't think I do. I don't feel the need to try.
No, but you could like do, I don't know what you could call it, Blue Startups GPT. Hawaii GPT.
Well, yeah. If I'll just have GPT write it, that sounds great.
Well, exactly. Well, there's always a path there, isn't there? I mean, I think you get a better adoption of Hawaii GPT to Chat GPT. It sounds a lot more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, I'm sorry I didn't realize that. That's silly me. I'm not half asleep at sometimes, but I'm joking. But it's a great achievement to get through that 10 years, and you've probably seen a hell of a lot in that. After that kind of that massive dip. It's I mean, I just find it incredible that it's what's happened in the last 10 years. I think about what I was doing 15 years ago, working in a corporate, and then, leaving in 2007 and going to San Francisco, San Ramon. We're in an office, in a flat in San Ramon with a whiteboard, a domain name, and no website. And, a bit of software from a guy from IIT. And then we formed this company and listed it on the stock market in 2012. But, it's, that was wild. That was like, no VC, bootstrap it. Take no money. It was pre-unicorns, pre-tech unicorns.
Yeah.
And now you look at it today.
I think the good thing about being through a couple of these cycles is that you do get, I guess, a little bit more perspective on it. And like, we're in another downturn now. It's certainly not as severe as 08 or 01, but, I kind of feel like, it's okay. It's just another down cycle. And then, that part of how this works, and it'll change around and turn around when it does. And you just kind of have a little more, I guess, faith that it's not like the end of the world, kind of thing. And, feeling like, this is just another one of those cycles. Right.
But it's also, I think, that thing about, it's back to fundamentals, I think, as well. There's that thing, we've been through that thing where you can't survive forever on, capital injections. You've got to have a fundamentally, revenue generating business. You've got to have an attractive offer. It's all, all ththose basics, which what I find sometimes
and there's no doubt, I think things were getting a little wacky. Like, 2021, I mean, I can't complain about it because the wackiness was obviously helping our companies raise money and all of that. But, just objectively speaking, you have to say it was getting a little crazy. So, a correction was definitely needed. Nobody wants a recession, but a correction is probably healthy, given kind of where things were. That frothiness is not healthy either, right? Because you're throwing away so much money into companies that probably aren't going to make good use of it, and probably are never going to meet the exit expectations because the valuations are so high. And so you're getting into then a very negative cycle of funds not being able to return the capital that they have kind of promised to their LPs, and LPs going, well, I'm not going to do that again. Like, that was an interesting experiment into the world of venture capital. And, so it has this, very detrimental effect on the whole industry when things get that hyped. Right.
I mean, I suppose that links to kind of the thing about what you're seeing. I'm seeing that there's kind of like, is there going to be a shakeout? There's going to be a shakeout in certain types of model, in the VC market. And, there's a slowdown in angels where they're saying, okay, I'm not going to put all my money into tech. And, is that what the sentiment you're seeing as well?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a slowdown across the board from angels to VC for sure. And a lot of deals that would have got done in 21 are not getting done now. I don't think I can say yet that I've seen a deal that should be getting done that hasn't, though. I mean, so again, if you're still very compelling, there's money out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's just, you have to be that good. No, you can't be kind of good. Or, you know, you can't be like, well, yeah, they don't have revenue, but wow, the team's amazing. Yeah. That doesn't really fly right now. Right.
Yeah.
So, I think, and that's probably, like I said, is probably a good thing. And valuations have come way down. That is probably a good thing as well. So the corrections are good. I think what's maybe not good and what makes everybody feel a little panicky are all the layoffs, right? So that just puts people.
Oh, you mean the layoffs
right?
that happen with the big tech firms? You mean, or a lot of
in the big tech?
Yeah,
big tech layoffs are getting pretty spooky. I've talked to a lot of folks who've been now through multiple rounds, and it's just not stopping. Like, oh, we're gonna have another round on Monday. Let's see if I still have my job. So that stuff really gets people on edge. But on the other side, interestingly, we usually see a big uptick then in deal flow, right? Because people are laid off. What are they going to do? Start a company?
Yeah, exactly. It's like an innovation spike, isn't it? Because they're usually the very smart people, and they leave the big beast that they've been within, and then they go out on their own, and it kind of spawns multiple innovations and multiple other companies out of the beast, you could say, or whatever you want to call it.
And that is, I was talking to some fellow investors this weekend actually, and we were saying, but we haven't quite seen that part of the cycle yet. That's what we would expect to happen, but it hasn't quite ended up in, it hasn't resulted in an uptick in deal flow for us as an early stage investor, which you would think it would. And it probably still will.
Maybe they're self-funding. Maybe they're saying, I don't need any investment. I'm just self-funding.
I doubt that. I think they're still kind of maybe sitting around going, well, is there still another job I can get? Like, in other words, it hasn't gotten bad enough yet, for them to think my only option right now is to start a company, or I've always wanted to start a company. Let me do that now, that kind of thing. I don't know. We just haven't quite seen the cycle come back to the deal flow side, but it will, it will. But there's still jobs out there to get, right? So that's kind of the irony of the situation, right? We're in that kind of inflection point where a lot of people are getting laid off, but there's still hiring happening, right? So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick question. I mean, I know I was obviously having a bit of a joke with the Hawaii GPT, but I mean, have you any perspective on that whole tsunami that's hit us, or that kind of wave? Any comments or thoughts? I mean, it seems to be very. It seems to have calmed down. It seems to have calmed down a little bit now, but it was just going, kind of a bit wild.
I don't think it's going to calm down much at all. I mean, it's still the pace of innovation here is absolutely off the charts in a way I've never seen in my life. The leaps and bounds that are being made. So I think it is. I mean, that's on the tech side, amazing, exciting. As it relates to what we do, it is scary and a little worrisome, because we've already, I think, seen a couple companies who've been basically supplanted. Doing AI just last year was so much harder. Right. And you could have spent the last 5 years building a tool that has just immediately become obsolete.
Oh, right.
Because of ChatGPT. Any of these others. So, and whether my founders are just blaming that or it's actually true, I've seen that as an explanation in a couple of shutdown letters lately. Like, well, we had this, and we've spent years building it. Now anybody can do it, basically. Right. So, that part of it, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. I've never seen, I mean, obviously, as we've been watching this for a while, and I've never seen anything happen so quickly at such large scale. I mean, it's incredible. And then when you actually use it, it's so amazing. It's like having a conversation. It's unbelievable. It's like speaking to
It's like magic.
And then it says, "Oh
It's
yeah,"
absolutely
and you go, da, 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 and then go, "Of course." And then and it say, "Oh, I apologize." It's like actually having a conversation with another human. It's incredible. So, but yeah, I mean the thing.
It's quite a magic.
It is it is magic. Yeah, I mean, it's you just wonder what's next. I mean, I don't know if you've seen on LinkedIn. There's a founder who's actually founded a company where he's the human assistant, and the CEO is ChatGPT. So I've had a few calls with him.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, he's created a company. He's been running it for about 130 days now, and he's actually got investors, and he's created a website, and he's doing various different things. He's been doing lectures all around the world. He came to London recently. He's a great guy, and yeah, he's. I'll put the link about that in the episode stuff. But he's quite a character, and he's just blown away with the reaction to it, and he's been all over the world just briefing about how he's done it. With the prompting that he does with ChatGPT. So, yeah, it's a complete shift in capability, and it's a bit like what I would say, a bit like the iPhone experience, but for obviously a different use case. But it's just actually game changer. So, yeah, fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of the future of what you're working on in Hawaii. What's you've obviously got this you got the Japanese initiative, and obviously you've got your blue startups, and I think recently you just kind of I know I put something out on LinkedIn. You just recently, is it cohort 15? I think you're just about to start off with
cohort
or start
15.
with.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we'll be doing cohort 15 this fall. So we'll select 8 startups to participate in that. And it will be part in person, part online, and then part in San Francisco. So the way it works is we have 8 weeks in Honolulu in person. We are dedicated to doing an in-person program. People really continue to push back on that. Well, can I participate remotely? Blah, blah. Obviously, we had a lot of experience with remote participation during COVID. And frankly speaking, I hated it. And I put it this way: it was like all of the work and none of the fun, like that's kind of how it felt, right? Like you really, there's so much to gain from the person interaction.
I agree.
In real life, and you just cannot replicate it. So we used to be 12 weeks in person. We have cut that down to 8 to try to accommodate folks who are coming in specifically for the program, so they only have to be here for 8 weeks. Honolulu is an expensive place to live. There's no doubt about that. So, that's part of it. We're trying to, take away some of the objection, right, to being here. And then we do 4 weeks online. And then we reconvene in San Francisco. We do our investor demo day there in San Francisco. And we're there for a week as well, kind of connecting with our network there in person again. I think it's important. People are like, oh, you don't need to do that. I'm like, I don't know. I think you still do. That's just me, I guess. I'm old school.
No, I agree with you. I mean, it's like when we met, there's nothing like doing all those. I remember having calls with you at 1 o'clock in the morning when I was doing this a few years in COVID. It's like, I was thinking, why am I'm on a call at 1 o'clock in the morning with Hawaii. But then obviously meeting you in person is fantastic, and spending some time with you. And the one thing I found as well is obviously acclimatizing to the time zone. I was basically completely jet lagged. So I'm in San Francisco, and I was with you, and I would actually end up working. I was working through the night, because I was like working a UK European day, and then I was going out on my trips with the people that basically to do the Hawaiian day. So actually, I kind of, when I came back to Europe, I was kind of like, my body goes, we need to sleep for a long time. Because, but I think because of the adrenaline of just being there, you just kept going. So that's why I was doing it. And I actually had a call, because I'm working in comedy as well. So I had a call with a prospect in the comedy space. It was a financial services company in London. I was on a call on Big Island in the hotel, and this is like, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning Hawaiian time, and the CEO of the comedy company, Comedy Crowd, John says, "Oh yeah, Andrew's in Hawaii at the moment." I was going, "This is a prospect call. This is not the time to introduce that I'm in Hawaii." It was quite funny. apart from the
Yeah.
point it was 2 o'clock in
Yeah.
the morning, but it's just like they probably think, why is
Well,
Andrew in
it's
Hawaii trying to talk about comedy?
right. But it is another, I think it's another benefit of COVID, really, that working from anywhere now has lost a lot of the stigma that it had
Correct.
before. And I see that a lot. I'm like, just example would be like people's LinkedIn profiles. I mean, there are people that I know who have been living here for a long time who still would have San Francisco on their
Oh, really?
profile or, something to that effect so that people don't think, oh, you're just, you just out doing what in Hawaii? Like that, you're not a serious person or, whatever. And I've seen all of that shift. Now it's like, I'm in Makawao, I'm in Waimea. I mean, people are putting it actually where they are on their profiles now, even though they're still very much.
Personally, I'm not going to say his name, but on this show, but he's a fantastic guy, and you know him as very well as well. The first time I had a call with him, he had a surfboard behind him, and he had his Hawaiian shirt on. And it was very early in the morning. And he said, for a long time, he was getting up at, practically before he went to bed. I mean, he's just, but working a global role from Hawaii, working in a very intensive role.
Right.
But, but it's that thing. I agree. It's kind of, it's broken that. I know there's obviously certain organizations want to get people back in the office and all that kind of thing. But it is,
right.
it's that life choice thing, isn't it? About what do you want? Do you get the right environment and you can be productive wherever you are in the world? I think that's the thing. It's broken from a paradigm shift. So,
yeah. So I'm hopeful that kind of stigma has been at least lessened. And, if you're from Hawaii, or you're building a startup in Hawaii, or you're working on tech in Hawaii, it's not assumed that you're some kind of wacko. It's assumed that you're the smarter guy in the room that is like making a great life choice, like good for you. That's more the response we get now. Like, wow, that's, good job. You have figured out a great life. So yay for you. Right.
Exactly. I mean, it's, maybe I think you should break away from the US really, you should create your own passport.
Well, believe me, plenty of people agree with you there. Yeah.
No. So, I mean, in terms of, I suppose bringing this episode together is, you've coached, you've helped, over 100 startups, 110 startups, I think you said, in 10 years. I mean, I think you should definitely write a book, because the amount of knowledge you've got and the experience you've got, it's like encyclopedic, right? So, I suppose my question would be about what would be that kind of those pearls of wisdom, those kind of like lessons learned that you've learned in your journey that you would, like to share on today's episode, that you would get people to think about if they're embarking on that, that a tech founder now is obviously kind of like a viable option. Yeah. When you come through education, it's, before it was like, what the hell are you doing that for? And now it's kind of, it's something that people definitely want to do, and they're inspired to do that. Any thoughts around those as you're sharing, I suppose?
Yeah. I think the first thing I always ask people is kind of why they're doing this, because I think it's something that you really need to think deeply about right at the beginning. I think some people are just like, I'm going to try this. Well, this is not something you just try out, or this is 110% of your life every day for the foreseeable future. Like say 10 years, just count on that. Are you really interested in that life? Because you're not going to. There's no kind of other way around it.
There's no half measure.
Really, no half measure. And I think, often, especially this generation, think, well, I'm going to still be able to have balance in my life. No, you're not. That's not happening. There is, you are going to be working very, very hard for a very long time. And if you're not, you're going to lose, because somebody else is going to be working that. Probably somebody overseas, right? So, I always tell my founders, there's a team in Singapore working on this idea right now. there's a team in China working on this idea right now. There's a team. Are you going to work as hard as they are?
Mm.
Yeah. And if you're not, that's fine. But you need to have that conversation with yourself before you embark on this journey, right? So that's kind of, say, the first thing. The other thing I ask people is, do you have an unfair advantage, right? Because so many times people come to me, I've got this idea for blah, blah. I'm like, well, have you ever worked in the vending machine industry? No. Well, why would you be the inventor of a new vending machine? Like, that's just probably not going to happen. Like, is your dad on a vending machine company? Like, there's got to be something, right, where you've got an unfair advantage. Because again, your competition probably does. So if they've got the insider knowledge, if they've been in the trenches in your industry before, or they are well connected, or they have specific, insight into technology solutions, whatever it is.
Yeah, they walked in the shoes of the problem kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, if you don't have that unfair advantage, you're likely going to lose. So, definitely, and I'm always encourage people to do what you know. Like, what do you know? What do you have insight into based on what you've already done? Right. So that's, I think, important. And the third thing is, when people ask me for advice all the time, should I be going after this market or that market? Should I be tweaking my product in this way or that way? Should I be? And of course, these are all answers I don't have. I can give you an opinion, but it's bullshit. So, if that's what you want, I can
It's
make
like
something up.
It's Page Chenoa. It's not Page Oracle. It's Page Chenoa. You see.
Right. That's what people think, but I am not, that, right? So what I always tell people is, your customer has the answers. Don't ask me. Ask your customer.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's something in the, I don't know, entrepreneurial mindset. I come across it over and over and over again, where there's this real reticence to ask the customer, right? There's kind of this exposure that happens there. And it's much easier to kind of live your life with your own theories and thoughts and thinking about what is needed in your industry and what you're creating and your product and how beautiful it is, because nobody wants to be told their baby's ugly. Yeah. They just don't ask the question.
It's like the fear of that.
Totally. They're totally scared. And I get it. It's scary. It's hard to ask for feedback. That's a human thing. You're like, don't tell me if it's not perfect. That's wonderful. Right? So, but again, that's where the gold is buried, and you need to dig it up.
Yeah.
You need to have conversations and have as many as possible, especially in the early stages of your company. And the more insight you gain, the better off you're going to be on every part of the strategy going forward. Product, marketing, the hiring, whatever it is, right? It's all going to be informed by the intelligence you've gathered from your customers. It's going to be informed by intelligence gathered from me or any other investor or anybody who's not your customer, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's very much like maybe trigger in my head about Steve Blank's comment, about get out of the office. Get out of the office. Yeah, yeah. And what it's what customer shoes, it's all that kind of stuff. Understand customer.
Theory still holds true.
Yeah.
There's no substitute for it. And again, entrepreneurs, even though that idea, that concept has now been around for a long time, entrepreneurs still don't do it. They just don't do it. They don't want to do it. So they have to be like forced to do it, Yeah.
Oh, and they sometimes think they can build something, and then based on their hypothesis, we're not validating it with customers, and then they maybe build the wrong thing, or then they get into that kind of difficult spiral. Yeah.
Totally. They will build in a box, and they will spend a lot of money, time, resources building something nobody's interested in, because they were scared to ask the question. If I built this, would you buy it? Right.
And then they build it, and they will come and all that. Yeah, exactly.
and they don't. They don't come. Like that's just not a thing.
Hello. Are you? Is anybody out there?
Yeah. And it's not that that's a foolproof recipe. I've certainly seen founders who have done extensive customer research and still built something that people aren't willing to buy for whatever reason.
Well, I suppose that's the next thing, isn't it? Will they be prepared to put their hand in their pocket and pull the money out? Yeah.
it's hard to get perfect information, and markets change too all the time too.
Yeah.
Right? So we have
it's
a couple
hard.
companies right
It's
now.
hard. It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, they built. I would put things in the category of nice to have, which people, a year ago or more said, yes, that's nice. I would like to have that. And now they're like, well, that was nice, but now I don't really need that. So I'm going to cut that from the budget. Right. So things change rapidly too.
Yeah.
It's hard to.
No, those are brilliant ones. Thank you. Yeah. Those are really good. I'm as you know, I'm collating all these, insights, and the plan is to publish it in something very soon. So that there's some great nuggets there.
Your book. Yeah.
And
good job.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, from the desk of Chief Startup Paradise Officer, Chenoa.
Just feed all these podcasts into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT write it for you.
Well, I'm not going to mention anything about that, but there's some interesting. All I can say is I've come across a very interesting tool that is helping me build out my Substack, and obviously mining the gold, the gold that's in their episodes, like this one today. There's some amazing stuff out there, really amazing stuff. It's exciting times. And I was just going to say to you, thank you so much for coming on this today's episode. It's only taken me nigh on 3 years to get you on the show, but it's been definitely worth the wait. For 3 years, and obviously, and then flying to Hawaii to come and see me in person. Obviously, wearing a Hawaiian shirt, obviously, but no flowers around my neck. But yeah,
no lay.
But yeah. So thank you for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And
mahalo for having me.
Exactly. I mean, it's and the stories and the value that you've shared, I think it's been really, really good. And I am jealous, and obviously, I'm available for, to be teleported from London to Hawaii for 8 weeks. To sit in the corner and just play. What is it? What they play? They play the
ukulele.
Yeah, you play my ukulele with my Hawaiian shirt on. Yeah, drinking Mai Tais.
Yeah.
So
that's what I do all day long, Andrew. That's what I do all day long. I'm just not showing you that part.
Okay, that's the next.
As soon as I get off this phone call, there we go.
Yeah, that's you're going to go sit in the corner and play with the ukulele. Okay. So for anybody that wants to know a bit more about what you do,
there's some Hawaiian ukulele. Look, even has the name on it.
Fantastic.
I don't know how to play it, though. Truth be told, I don't know. I've never learned.
So just going to say to finish off this episode was what if anybody wants to know more about what we've talked about with the stuff you're doing over there, because obviously this is going to get published on lots of platforms, Spotify and Apple and YouTube. But what would be your guidance on that? Obviously we'll put it in the episode notes, but any kind of updates?
Yeah, I mean, bluestartups.com is probably the best resource for all information. Yes, all roads
lead to that. And
then I'm a very approachable person on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. My name is unique, pretty easy to find. So
I agree.
If you want to connect with me personally, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Cool. Fantastic. Well, thanks for doing this show. I know you've got your whole day ahead of you now.
Yes, I do.
And I've got probably some sleep ahead of me. But anyway, thanks for accommodating it. And catch up soon. Let's catch up soon, and let's see what we can do to help cohort 15.
Awesome.
And that's been Chenoa Farnsworth, who's the CEO of Blue Startups, based in Honolulu, Hawaii. And that's Andrew Turner, the poor so-and-so that's based not in Honolulu, Hawaii, but, would love to visit again soon. And have a lovely day.
Right.
Fantastic. See you soon. Thanks very much for your time.
Okay. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks.